Mammon and the Archer. Old Anthony Rockwall, who made millions of dollars by making and selling Rockwall soap, stood at the window of his large Fifth Avenue house. He was looking out at his neighbor, G. Van Schulight Suffolk Jones. His neighbor is a proud member of a proud old New York family. He came out of his door and got into a cab. He looked once, quickly as usual, at Anthony Rockwall's house. The look showed that Suffolk Jones was a very important man, while a rich soap maker was nothing. "I will have this house painted red, white, and blue next summer," said the Soap King to himself. "And we'll see how he likes that." And then Anthony Rockwall turned around and shouted, "Mike!" in a loud voice. He never used a bell to call a servant. "Tell my son," he said when the servant came, "to come to me before he leaves the house." When young Rockwall entered the room, the old man put down the newspaper he had been reading. "Richard," said Anthony Rockwall, "what do you pay for the soap that you use?" Richard had finished college 6 months before, and he had come home to live. He had not yet learned to understand his father. He was always being surprised. He said, $6 for 12 pieces. "And your clothes?" "About $60 usually." "You are a gentleman," said his father. "I have heard of young men who pay $24 for 12 pieces of soap, and more than $100 for clothes. You have as much money to throw away as anyone else has. But what you do is reasonable. I myself use Rockwall soap because it is the best. When you pay more than 10 cents for a piece of soap, you're paying for a sweet, strong smell and a name. But 50 cents is good for a young man like you. You are a gentleman. People say that if a man is not a gentleman, his son can't be a gentleman. But perhaps his son's son will be a gentleman. But they're wrong. Money does it faster than that. Money has made you a gentleman. It has almost made me a gentleman. I've become very much like the 2 gentlemen who own the houses on each side of us. My manners are now almost as bad as theirs. But they still can't sleep at night because a soap maker lives in this house." "There are some things that money can't do," said the young man rather sadly. "Don't say that," said old Anthony. "Money is successful every time. I don't know anything you can't buy with it. Tell me something that money can't buy. And I want you to tell me something more. Something is wrong with you. I've seen it for 2 weeks. Tell me. Let me help you. In 24 hours, I could have $11 million here in my hands. Are you sick?" "Some people call it a sickness." "Oh," said Anthony. "What's her name? Why don't you ask her to marry you? She would be glad to do it. You have money, you're good-looking, and you are a good boy. Your hands are clean. You have no Rockwall soap on them." "I haven't had a chance to ask her," said Richard. "Make a chance," said Anthony. "Take her for a walk in the park or walk home with her from church.